Everyone, CPO here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the camera cage I chose to use for my a7R3 or a7 III. I actually have both right now. You're seeing, see, this is being recorded with the a7 III, and I have the a7R3 right here in the camera cage. The cage works for both. Usually when we talk about cages, it's budget versus high-end. It's small rig versus some knockoff competitor. But that's really not what this video is about, even though this is a budget cage. I got this cage because it had some features that the SmallRig cage did not have that I wished it had. And in turn, I got this, which turned out to be the budget option. So I am a huge fan of this, and I wanted to share it with you. And yeah, so here we go. All right, so this is a UURig cage. This is the new upgraded cage for the A7 series. It's the R063 model number. And I'm going to show you a couple of different angles here. And I'll show you sort of the basics about this. And then I'll explain, how I use it, how it works for me. By the way, this little piece right here, this is an optional clamp for an HDMI cable. This is a separate item. This is item number UURig R068, and this is actually why I started looking at cages to begin with. Is I use an external HDMI monitor. I use a Atomos Ninja 5, and I'm always plugged in. So because of that, I keep knocking off the cable out of the plug, and so I was like, I need a clamp. And get a cage, you can get a clamp. And so that's what started me on this journey. And then come to find out, I really love the cage for a lot of reasons. And in particular, this cage. So another thing I got, which I'll talk about, also a separate add-on, is a handle. This is also a UURig product. I just went ahead and got the whole setup because, yeah, I wanted to keep it in the family. That is UURig, let's see, what is that? R042. And it comes with a NATO rail that you can use to mount to any other cage. It just so happens that this cage also has a NATO rail on the top. So I'll talk a little bit about that here as well. All right, so first let me show you some of the key features of this particular cage. As you can see, it wraps around nicely, gives protection on all sides of the camera, which is nice and one of the values of a cage. Besides that, it gives you a whole crap ton of mounting points. I'm not going to go through all the sales points on this. If you're looking for a cage, you probably know what type of mounting points you want. Yeah, this has a bunch of them. So another thing I'll point out really quick is just the fact that all of the ports are accessible. So battery, easy in and out. Memory card, easy in and out, no problem there. All the buttons you can get to and dials. The hardest one probably is this guy on top, and it's less of a problem on the a7 III, but the a7R3, it's got a lock, so you've got to press down the lock and turn it, and the only way to get to it is kind of from right here. So it's not a big deal, but with the a7 III, you can just turn it. You don't have to press the lock. So a little bit harder on this, but any of the cages are going to have that particular issue. And you can get to all of your side access ports here. Just the same. There's one more in here, which is harder to get to. It's the mic plug that I can't get to right now because of that HDMI clamp. So, all right, so when we talk about how I use this, right, one of the things I like about this is how it's contoured with the handle, the grip of the camera. It adds a little extra bulk right here, but it's shaped in such a way that it feels like it's part of the camera. Alternatively, on the other side here, you've got a NATO rail, and you've also got another cold shoe, but the way that sticks out, it actually makes it another easy hand grip, which I really like. And for a video shooter, being able to have two grips on the camera is really quite nice. So I like that. That's not a feature that I think was intended, but it works pretty well. So yeah, I've got the double grip, but the feature that sold me The one thing it had that the other cages did not have was this. It has a built-in ArcaSwiss slot. So with the other cages, I was going to have to mount an ArcaSwiss like plate. Got one right here. I was going to have to mount one of these to the bottom of the cage, and then basically just leave it there permanently if I wanted to be able to take the cage on and off of a variety of mounts, because I use it on a tripod, I use it on a desk mount, which is where it's at right now. And so what I like about this is I can just take this cage and slip it into a ball head without having to do anything else because it's built in. So here's the ball head from my tripod, and yeah, I just clip it in there, tighten her down, and I'm good to go because it's just built in to the cage. Then when I want to change from the tripod to another mount or whatever, I can do that. So I really like that feature. It also has this little magnetic key that you can use to loosen and tighten it. This is interesting. It is magnetically held in place, and I've seen people talk about this, but it's also slotted so it fits in there. So the only way to get it out is to slide it out of its position. And there's actually a little felt pad there. So yeah, that's a nice touch. So I don't think it's going to fall off. I don't think you're going to lose it. So that is the cage in a nutshell. You can, if you have different types of mounts, you can obviously attach whatever you want to this anywhere. Yeah, it's got several different mounts for straps. You've got one down here on the bottom. So yeah, all kinds of ways to strap. I use Peak Design's quick release strap, and I'll show you how that works too with a long lens. Because I like the way this works with a long lens as well. Again, this extra handle really makes a difference that I wasn't actually expecting. All right, so I use this handle. Obviously, it makes a great handle for the camera, and it holds the weight well, especially when I get a long lens. In fact, when I have the long lens on, which I don't usually handheld for video with a long lens, I can actually turn this around and have the handle forward, and that holds the weight really, really well. But again, it's just got this little NATO clamp, and because the cage has a NATO rail on top, it's really easy to take on and put off. And then I just center it in front of the hot shoe so that it's centered on the camera. Now I use this primarily for my monitor. Like I mentioned before, my monitor is being used to record this, so that's why it's not on here. And then also I've got cold shoes on the sides that I use for my microphone. So I'll either put my microphone on this cold shoe right here on the side, or one of these on the top. My monitor sits up top, and then my microphone will protrude forward. So let me show you a little bit. I know this isn't a video specifically about this clamp, but seeing how this clamp is what got me into this mess, let me show you how this works with a variety of different cables. Now, one thing I did find is it works really well with a cable. I like to use the 90-degree cables. Actually, let me show a standard cable here first. I can't show you a standard cable because it's in use right now. So standard cable obviously is going to stick straight out. My preference is this one here with a 90-degree that points down. And then once I plug it in, I just tighten this down. And it clamps the cable and holds it from being pulled apart. So works really well, super easy. And then to remove it, I just turn this a couple times. And then pull the cable straight out. And there we go. Now, I did have this cable. This is an Atomos cable. and it's a 90-degree cable, but it points toward the front of the camera. And I did not like that with this setup, so that's why I switched to a different, this is an off-brand. If you're curious about this, I'll put links to all this stuff. I got it all on Amazon. I'll put it in the description of the video. And by the way, those are affiliate links I'm going to give you, so I do get a small reward for referring you. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help support my channel. But the outermost, the expensive cable, is a 90-degree that points toward the front. And it didn't work that well, but I mean it did, but let me show you what I mean here. So I took this bracket and I turned it and mounted it on the side, and you can see some marks in the bracket from where I had it mounted. So I basically, instead of having it pointed down, which is the way it's designed to do, it pointed sideways, and it did hold that cable that was poking out the front just fine. Problem is, it made it hard to get to the microphone port, and because I also use an external microphone, that became an issue. So I went with a different cable design that allowed me to put this pointed down, and now it works a lot better. And I just leave it on all the time. I just sort of, when there's no cable in there, I tighten this down and just lock it into place, and yeah, it stays out of the way. So if I put a long lens on, let's put this guy on right here. All right, so this is a Sony 200 to 600, and again, the handle I don't really use with this. I usually, when I'm out shooting this, I'm getting photos most often. Although I do some videos, and if I do that, I do a tripod mount, which I use the foot and then connect that into a video tripod. But when I'm out just getting photos, I do this. Again, double hand hold makes it really easy, even with this big lens, to hold on to. And I find that this cage gives me lots of finger spots to grab the camera, which you wouldn't normally get if you didn't have a cage. And then, so my strap, I'll clip on to the lens, and then to the top side of this guy, over the shoulder. And this is pretty much how I wear it. And I can adjust the length, you know, if I want it hanging low behind me when I'm walking, or I can bring it up closer and tighter in. But yeah, this is how I use that. And because I have strap options, I use this one up here. I originally was thinking that using this bottom strap point was going to work well, but when I bring it up to my face, the strap would interfere with my thumb. And I'm a back focus shooter, so I have that set for back focus. So I like to be able to have full access to my thumb. So having the strap come over the top worked out a lot better. Yeah, like that. Anyway, that's it. It's a video about a cage. The UURig, sort of I think a hidden gem. I don't think a lot of people know about this. It's a fairly new product, as far as I can tell. This new design, I actually was getting the older design, and then I saw the new design. I'm like, oh crap, I want the new one. But I really like it a lot. And like I said, I looked at some of the higher end versions of the cages, and they just didn't do it for me, because once I found out there was one that had the ArcaSwiss mount, like really, that's all I wanted. I did not want to have another base plate stuck on the bottom of this. Now, by the way, there is one thing I can tell you, and that is periodically, if you choose to do so, you can put a base plate on the side. I'm just putting it here for demonstration purposes. Matter of fact, I have a screwdriver here that comes with the cage. But so yeah, you can put this on the side. It does a couple things. Primarily, though, allows you to mount your camera in a portrait orientation on a tripod, because there is no ArcaSwiss plate on the side, just on the bottom. So this just turned it into an L bracket, which is handy, but also gives even more surface area as a grip. So if you just wanted to leave it on there full time, that might work well. Oh, speaking of, sorry, now this is all random streams of consciousness here. All right, last thing I'll show you, I promise, because the side here is a NATO rail, I can also put my handle on the side. Now this isn't super ideal. Like I would prefer it if I could hold it this way, and this particular handle, I haven't been able to figure out how to do that. But I'm probably going to figure something out. But even this just gives me something else. You know, anything you can do for touch points, especially, and the wider you can get, the better. So I thought it was pretty cool that was even a possibility. So if you're a handle user, lots of options with this particular setup. So anyway, guys, this is the UURig R063 on the A7 series, a7III series, I should say, because I don't believe this. Actually, I'm positive this doesn't fit the new A7R Mark IV or the upcoming A7 Mark IV. But if you have an A7III, it fits either the R or the standard. They're the same body dimensions, and it works out really well. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.